Hello, boys and girls. Today we're going to be in our statistics packet and we're going to be making another histogram. So if you could go to page, as far back in here, it's going to be page 22. We're going to be on page 22 and you're going to see a set of data called daily visitors to selected state parks. Okay. All right. So we already have our question. And we already have our data, so the first two steps are done for us. The question is, how many people typically visit New York State parks every day? And again, that key word in here is typically. When you see a word like that, the question is typically a statistical question. Now, the data has already been collected for us. It says daily visitors to selected state parks. And each one of these numbers would represent the number of people that visited a state park on a given day. And you can see that the data is pretty spread out, so it would make sense for us to do a line plot or a dot plot because again the range of these numbers is quite wide. So you would have to have a long number line, and the numbers would be really spread out. So it would make sense to do that. Okay, so we have a question. We have the data. What we're going to do now is we're going to organize the data. So I'm going to use the method I've used before, and I'm going to cross numbers out as I tally them. But before we do that, we need to find intervals first. So if we take a look at these numbers, let's see, they go from like 108 all the way up to about 300. I think 382 is the greatest number. So it wouldn't make sense to count by tens because that wouldn't get us close, or that would take us a long time to get there. Hundreds would probably be too much, so maybe 50s. Count up by 50s. So we'll start with 100. So our interval will be, first interval will be 100. Now I don't want to go up to 150 because that's actually 51 numbers between 100 and 150. So I'm going to go from 100 to 149. That's actually 50 numbers right there. And then I'm going to go from 150 to 199. And then we'll go from 200 to 249. And then 250 to 299. 300 to 349. And then 350 to 399. Now you might say, why didn't we go from 100 to 150? Well, it's kind of like this. Like if we went from 0 to 10, we couldn't go from like 10 to 20 because we've already counted 10. We'd have to go from 11 to 21, and then it would kind of throw things off. We have to go from 22 to 32. So we just got to be careful when we're making our intervals that they go up by the proper amount. Okay, now to count these up, to tally these data points, we're going to start with 108. I'm going to cross out 108, and I'm going to put a tally where 108 would be, which is 100 to 149. So then 209, tally at 200 to 249. 171 is going to be between 150 and 199. 152 is between 150 and 199, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to keep doing this until I've placed all the numbers in the proper intervals. And again, if I get to 4, I'm going to make sure to put a line through. I'm sorry, if I get to 5, I'm going to put a line through the 4 to make a 5. 212, 200 to 249, 161. It's going to go here. 327, 185. It's going to be a tally. 5. 192. 226 right here, 137, 193, 253, 207, 382, and 241. It's going to go right there. Okay. And now we're going to write our frequency, which is how frequently the number was in that interval. So 100 to 149 was 2 data points. 150 to 199 was 7. 200 to 249 is 8. 300 to 349 is 2. And then there was a 1 here, 350 to 399. I'm just going to, real quick, just find the total, just to make sure we've counted all the numbers. 8 plus 2 is 10. 7 plus 2 is 9, plus 1 is another 10, so it's going to be 20 altogether. And it looks like we have 5 by 4. That's going to be 20 data points. So it looks like we've got them all, which is nice. All right, so we're going to put 6 intervals on this graph. So I'm going to use a ruler. And I lucked out because I grabbed one of these little rulers here that are 6 inches wide. And so I'm going to place the ruler at the bottom of the graph here. And I'm going to put a little dash for every inch. And I'm going to be able to make 6 intervals, 1 for each interval we have in our chart. So it's 1 inch, 2 inches, 3, 4, 5, 6. And again, I'm going to have this little space here. And that's okay to have this little space. We don't have to use all the room here. Ideally, we would, but we're not going to make a big deal about that little extra space there because we have enough for our intervals. All right, so let's label our intervals. I'm going to kind of tilt my page a little bit just so I have enough room to write these. So it's going to be 100 to 149. This one's going to be 150 to 199. This is 200 to 249. 250 to 299. 300 to 349. And then 350, 399. Okay. And then along sort of the, I guess we'd call that the y-axis of the graph, we're gonna count until we can fit all of the numbers for our frequency. Our frequency goes up to 8. So that's the greatest number we have to go up to on the side here is 8 because 200 to 249 has the most frequency, which is 8. I'm hoping, the hope is we can count by ones, but I don't think that's going to work. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So unfortunately, we'll have to count by twos, which will kind of sort of compress our graph a little bit, but that's okay. We'll be able to fit everything. Okay, so we'll start with 0, and we'll count up by twos. 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay, it's going to be a little squished just because I wish we could use the space up here, but it wouldn't make sense to go up by like 1.5. That wouldn't make the graph easier to read. All right, so I'll get my ruler. Got my ruler here. 100 to 149 has a frequency of 2. So I'm going to start here at the dash that I made to the right. I'm going to go up to 2. Luckily, this ruler is clear, so I can see exactly where 2 is. It's right there. I'm going to draw a line over. I'll try to kind of darken that there. There you go. All right. 150 to 199 is 7. And I'll also start to the right here. I'm going to go up to 7, which is halfway between 8 and 6. And again, the bars for the histogram need to be touching. So I'm going to go up on right next to the 100 to 149 bar. I'm going to go up to 7 as well. Okay. And then I'm going to connect that to make a solid bar, and that's going to be at 7. All right, 200 to 249 is up to 8. So this is going to be our highest bar. It's going to go up to the sort of like the 4th level there. There it is. Do the same thing on the other side, where the bars need to be touching in the histogram. So I'm just going to make sure that that's happening. All right. So far, so good. All right. 250 to 299 has nothing. There's no data there, so I'm not going to make a bar. 300 to 349 is 2. So I'm going to go to the right. I'm going to go up to 2. And this is where my bar starts. So I'm going to go up to 2 here. So there's the 300 to 349 bar. It's right in that area. And I'm going to sort of make a little top here, darkening that line. Perfect. And the last one is one little data point from 350 to 399. I'm going to go up just halfway here to make 1. I'm going to go all the way over until it touches the bar right next to it. Beautiful. All right. So what I like to do when I work with histograms is I like to just put the number or the frequency right above the bar. So 100 to 149 is 2. Just like make a little 2 there. 150 to 199 is 7. So this just helps me see the numbers a little bit more easily. You'll see this sometimes in histograms. 250 to 299 is 0. 300 to 349 is 2. 350 to 399 is 1. One last thing is we need a title. We'll call this Daily Park Visitors. Maybe. Daily Park Visitors. Okie dokes. What we're going to do now, and you'll be able to see this better on your packet than mine, I'm going to open up the packet so I can kind of look at both the graph and the page with the questions that are going to help us describe the graph. So you probably won't be able to see both of mine all at once, but I'm going to try my best to kind of go back and forth between the graph and the questions. So in this case, the questions are already there. The numbers, we don't have to fill in the numbers. The numbers are there for us. So the question is, the statistical question is, how many people typically visit the New York State parks every day? And what we're going to do is, using these questions, we're going to kind of pull data from the histogram to help us answer the questions here. It says, how many data points are greater than 199? All right, so we'll look back at the graph. So this frequency, or this interval, is less than 199. We want all the ones that are greater than 199. So that's going to be 8. There's 8 that are greater than 199 here. 0 plus 2 plus 1. So every bar to the right of my hand is greater than 199. So I'm going to add those up. 8 plus 2 plus 1. So 8 plus 2 plus 1. And that would be 11 data points. So 11 would be our answer there. All right, the next question is, how many data points are less than 300? Less than 300. All right, so these two intervals are greater than 300. So everything to the left of my hand here, all those intervals are less. The data points are less than 300. So we have 0 plus 8 plus 7 plus 2. Add those up. 0 plus 8 plus 7 plus 2. 8 plus 7 is 15. Plus 2 is 17. What you could also say, to figure that one out, is there were 3 that were greater than 300, or 300 greater. There were 20 total data points. So 20 minus 3 would be 17, but that's another way to do it, is to add the intervals up. How many data points are 250 or greater? 250 or greater. Well, you see, here's 250. That's the start of 250. So anything greater than that would count. 0 plus 2 plus 1. So that would only be 3, it appears. 0 plus 2 plus 1 would be 3. Okay, how many data points are 249 or less? 249 or less. Let's check that out. Well, 249 ends here in this interval. So it includes this bar here. So we're going to count that 8, 7, and 2. 8 plus 7 plus 2. 8 plus 7 plus 2. 8 plus 7 is 15 plus 2 is 17. Now, if it's the previous question was 250 or greater. This one's 249 or less. So that should include all the data. Every number was either 250 or greater or 249 or less. And you can see if you add those together, 3 plus 17, which would be 20, which is all the data points that we had collected at the beginning. All right, how many data points are between 150 and 299? So now we're looking at a couple different intervals right here. 150, here's 150, the start of 150, and 299, that ends here. So 150 to 299 would be 7 plus 8 plus 0. And that's why it helps to write the numbers above the bars, because it will help you count up or see the number of the interval a little bit more clearly. So you don't have to count it up each time. 7 plus 8 plus 0. 7 plus 8 is 15 plus 0 is 15. Okay. Which interval represents the greatest number of data points? What does the histogram show you about that interval? The one with the greatest number of data points would be this interval, 200 to 249. 200 to 249. So this is the interval 200 to 249. Okay. What does the histogram show you about that interval? What it tells us, or what it shows us, is that on more days than... So what it's really saying is on 8 days, between 200 and 249 people. Actually, let me... Okay, on 8 days, 200 to 249 people visited a park. Comma, more days than any other interval. So the reason I'm being so careful with how I'm wording that is you can't just say, just because it has the most of any other interval, it doesn't mean that on most days 200 to 249 people came, because out of 20 days, this interval came up 8 times. For you to be able to say, like, on most days this many people came, it would have to be more than half. This is less than half of the days. So it just means, like, this interval, the number of visitors came up in this interval more than any other interval. Doesn't mean it came up the most, or on most days this happened. It's just more than others. Are there any intervals with a frequency of 0? Yes, there are. That was easy to spot. It's right here. 250 to 299. Are there any intervals with a frequency of 0? 250 to 299. what does it mean? It means there were no days where 200 to 299 people visited the park. Whoa. Visited the park. There were no days where 250 to 299 people visited the park. There were days when more people than that came. There were days where less than that number of people came, but not. There were no days where exactly either or between 250 to 299 people came to the park. All right, now this question we might have to switch out. I'm going to change this one up. This must have been for a previous graph. We're going to change that 5 to a 2. Which interval has 2 data points? And I chose that number because there's not just one, but 2 intervals that have 2 data points, these 2 right here. So 100 to 149 and 300 to 349. Those are the same number, they both have 2. So there's 2 answers to that question. So 100 to 149 and 300 to 349. Now, to get back to the actual question that we answered, I'm going to go back to the histogram real quick before we finish. Question is, how many people typically visit New York State parks every day? If you look at our graph here, I'm looking for in a histogram, I'm not going to get an individual number, like an exact number, but we can kind of see like an interval of the typical amount of people. If we look here, it seems like there's a lot of data points between 150 and 249. So we might say on a typical day, between 150 and 249 people come to the park. That answer probably best fit the question based on the data and how we showed the data in this histogram. Okay, I hope you enjoyed making that histogram and answering the questions about the histogram. If you have any questions for me, please let me know. If not, I hope you have a great day and hope to see you soon. Okay, bye-bye.